This morning it's a study session again. It's a presentation, so I'm gonna move my verbal notes to my iPod. Hi, Doormob Man. Welcome. Good morning. How are you doing this morning? Glad you could tune in.
Let's now examine the Disney argument again to see if we can identify any assumptions, any gaps in the reasoning, missing links between the premise and the conclusion. You'll recall that these 6 claims here are the premise claims, which supports this 7th claim, the conclusion claim. Are there any assumptions in this argument? The answer is no. This is an airtight argument. The premises guarantee the conclusion. We know that Walt is a member of the Disney Vacation Club. Now let's push this back to the first premise. Disney Vacation Club members can access the Fast Pass, right? We know Walt has a Fast Pass. All right, well then now we need to consider these 2 premises because there are only 2 ways to get it. One way is if you have offered 10 goats worth of propitiations to Mickey, you can get it via the app. The other, right, all other, meaning if it's not this, well then you must prostrate yourself before Goofy's altar. And now this last fact kicks into action. Right? Walt has never done this, so it's excluding this option, which forces this option. Walt must have offered the requisite propitiations to Mickey. So you see, if these premises are all true, right, you can think of these as rules and these as facts, right? These 3 are like the fact premises and these 3 are the rule premises. They work together to guarantee this result. This is why we rank this argument as the strongest. It's because it makes no assumptions. Right? When the premises are true, the conclusion must be true. This is a special class of arguments that we call valid, right? Valid arguments are the strongest kinds of arguments. Let's review. An argument where the truth of its premises guarantees the truth of its conclusion is a valid argument. Valid arguments contain no assumptions.
Welcome everybody. Today I'm studying, but I had to log into my email really quickly. But welcome to a quiet study session. Right now I'm studying for the LSAT, and then after I'm going to show you or give you a quick overview of my presentation, because I have a presentation I have to present in class, and it can only be like, it has to be less than 10 minutes. So I mean, I already practiced, but I'm like, I'll practice for you guys too. You'll be able to learn a little bit of criminal justice information. So if you guys want to stick around, greatly appreciate if you could. Please consider hitting that subscribe button. We are on our way to 2,000 subs. And if you want to see what happens to somebody when they say 1,000, thank you 1,000 times, check out my most recent full-length YouTube video, guys. But welcome to the live.
Let's switch gears a bit and talk about tactics. I cannot overstate how important it is to be able to identify premises and conclusions on the LSAT and to be able to do it fast. Okay, but we have to start somewhere. So slow is better than not being able to do it at all. So in this lesson, I want to talk about 3 slow but effective methods to identify premises and conclusions. And the goal, right, the goal is that you practice these, and then over time you get faster and faster and faster until it becomes intuitive, until it becomes second nature until you don't even think about it, and you just read an argument and you're like, oh yeah, this is the conclusion, this is the premise, right? And the processing all just happens automatically. Okay, so let's talk about the first of these three methods. Just get to the point. What does that mean? Well, to identify an argument's conclusion, using this method, you ask yourself, what does the author really want me to believe? I mean, I know he's saying all of this stuff to me, but if I told him to shut up and just get to the point, or you get to tell me one thing, what's that one thing you think the author's going to get you to believe, right, or the author's going to say? And when you find the answer there, you found the conclusion, most likely, because this method kind of relies a bit on your intuition. You kind of have to discern what's being supported and what's giving support, and generally understand what the passage is already saying. So, it works better on some arguments than others. Okay, but let's practice this one. Well, we'll use the tiger's argument again, right? The author makes two claims. Not every mammal is suitable to keep as a pet, and after all, tigers are aggressive. Now, if you just force the author to delete one of these two claims, which one do you think he would delete? Right? In other words, which of these two claims do you think is more dear to him? Which one do you think he's more interested in persuading you of? Well, it would be the first claim, that not every mammal is suitable to keep as a pet, because that's his conclusion. That's the claim that he ultimately wants you to believe. Okay, so second method involves a bit of trial and error. What you do is you take a claim that you suspect might be the conclusion, and then you ask yourself, why should I believe this claim? And then you try to see if you can answer that question by referencing only the other claims in the argument, right? This is a very crucial step. You're not allowed to reference your own knowledge. You have to reference other claims that's physically in the argument. And if you can find the answer to, I think claim X is the conclusion. Why should I believe claim X? Oh, look, right over here, claim Y, right? That's the reason. Okay, well then you're probably right. X probably is the conclusion. Again, let's practice with the tiger's argument. Right, you look at these two claims and, I don't know, just pick one, right? Let's say you pick the second claim. After all, tigers are aggressive, cause serious injury. Let's just say, for whatever reason, you thought maybe that's the conclusion. Okay, well then, ask the question. Why should I believe this claim? Why should I believe that tigers are aggressive, cause serious injury? Now, what you cannot do is you cannot reference your own knowledge. You cannot be like, well, I've seen nature documentaries, right? I've maybe even seen a tiger in real life. They are really aggressive. They can cause serious. That's not using this method correctly, right? You have to only point to information that's already in the argument. And here, there's only one of the pieces of information in the argument, which is that not every mammal is suitable to keep as pet. But that has no bearing on whether tigers are aggressive. So you see, using this method kind of reveals that the second claim here cannot be the conclusion. Whereas if you flipped it around, right, let's say you picked the first claim. I think the conclusion is that not every mammal is suitable to keep as a pet. Okay, let's ask the question. Why should I believe that not every mammal is suitable to keep as a pet? Right? Why should I believe there are some mammals that are not suitable? Well, look at the other claim. Because tigers are aggressive and cause serious injury. You see how that makes sense? So that's how you use this method. Now, the third and final method is to use indicators. What are indicators? Well, they're words that indicate whether you're about to read a premise or a conclusion, right? So that's why they're called indicators. This method is a bit mechanical and requires you to memorize a bunch of, indicator words. Okay, so I'm not going to bore you by reading all of these, but I'll just point out the fact that there are three buckets of indicator words. The first bucket are conclusion indicators. Okay, so usually what happens is you see these words and then you'll see some conclusions. Okay, or you can think of these words as introducing conclusions. Words like consequently, therefore, as a result, so clearly. The next bucket are premise indicators. As the name suggests, they introduce premises. So you read after all, you read given that, you read for the reason that, and you think to yourself, okay, I'm about to read a premise. And then the last bucket, 3 words, for, since, because. There's going to be a lesson coming up real soon that's dedicated to just these 3 words. Okay, they introduce premises, but there's a conclusion in there, and we'll talk more about that in that lesson. A final point I want to make about these indicators is that they are both over and under inclusive. Okay, what do I mean by that? Well, under inclusive in the sense that there are other words that indicate premises or conclusions that are not on the list. The list is under inclusive. Why didn't I put those other words on the list? Because I just can't list them all. There are way too many. So how did I curate that list? By picking indicator words that are, commonly used. Another point about the list, or rather the words in the list, is that it's a bit over-inclusive as well. It's just not true that every time you see the word say clearly, it's being used as a conclusion indicator. I mean, sometimes it is, like in this example, clearly Mr. Fat Cat did it, right? So there clearly is a conclusion indicator, but clearly can't be used as not a conclusion indicator as well. For example, I can see clearly. There, it's just not a conclusion indicator. It has nothing to do with arguments. You see what I mean? So this, this is an inherent ambiguity that is an inescapable part of the English language. And this is why in the list of indicators I say usually followed by a premise or usually followed by a conclusion. I want you to think of these indicators as rules of thumb. Okay, do they always work? Nope. But they work often enough to be helpful. Okay, let's review. It's very important to identify premises and conclusions. Here are 3 methods. 1, just get to the point. 2, why should I believe this claim? And 3, indicators.
Now a practice set.
Alright, question 1. This one was kind of a curveball. There is no conclusion in this, and, first there's no conclusion indicator, right? Like, any of those words. And then if you just kind of read this stuff, right? The teeth of some mammals show growth rings that result from, right? Like, where do these growth rings come from? Well, they tell you. Well, here's where they come from. The constant depositing layers of whatever this stuff as opaque bands in the summer and translucent bands in winter. So you get opaque band, translucent, opaque, translucent, opaque, translucent as time moves forward, right? So that's kind of cool. That's growth rings on teeth. And then cross sections of pig's teeth. See, like we learn about this general stuff about some mammals. They have these growth rings, right? And then we zero in and talk about pigs. Yeah, like these cross sections on the pig's teeth, excavated. Like what pigs? Well, like really old pigs excavated Stone Age trash pit, right? Trash pit. They're probably eaten by our Stone Age ancestors. They reveal bands of remarkably constant width, except that the band deposited last, which was invariably translucent, was only about half the normal width. So that's kind of interesting, right? But like, okay, you can say that, but you can't say that. Oh, this thing supports this thing, right? Like, why should I believe this second statement that cross sections of pig's teeth found next to Stone Age, blah 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 blah? It's certainly not. I mean, it's not because of this. You can't say it's because of this first statement. There's no support structure. Nor can you say, oh, why should I believe this first statement? It's because of the second statement. No, there isn't a support structure there either, right? Perhaps you can take this first statement together with the second statement and use both of them to support some third statement that's not present, right? You can play detective here, given what you know generally about growth rings, and given what they tell you specifically about the Stone Age pig's teeth that were found. Maybe you can say, oh, therefore I conclude, right? But that's something entirely different. You see, you have to recognize that there's no support relationship between these two statements. Question 2, the conclusion indicator is consequently so. The true annual rate of earnings on an interest-bearing account. And what is the true annual? It was this thing. Okay, so because of this, therefore, if blah blah blah. Right? Like at this point, you really don't have to. I know it's kind of confusing and stuff, but you don't have to process it. Right? Lucky for you at this point. At some point, it's not good enough just to say this premise supports this conclusion. You have to really get into detail about how well it supports the conclusion, right? Or how weakly or strongly it supports the conclusion. But at this point,
Welcome everyone. Welcome Finley. Welcome Dormob Man. How are you all doing today? For the new people, I'm doing some LSAT studying. I'm starting with the foundations again, and then I'll move on to the more specific concepts. After my LSAT studying, I plan to practice my presentation with you guys. I'm presenting on Wednesday, less than 10 minutes, so already practiced, but I'll go through it one time with you guys, and then you could tell me what you like, how you like it. So definitely subscribe if you want to leave and come back for the presentation. Only way you'll find my channel again is if you hit that subscribe. We are on our way to 2,000 subscribers, guys.
in this lesson, I want to talk about complex arguments. What are complex arguments? Well, let's start by asking what are simple arguments, or just arguments. What are arguments? Premise, which gives support, and conclusion, which receives support. Great. Now, what if a claim both receives support from one claim and gives support to another claim? What do we call that claim? See, it's possible You know, just like how it's possible for someone to simultaneously be a mother and a daughter, it's possible for a claim to simultaneously be a premise and a conclusion. You have to remember that support is a relationship. Okay, so the person you call mom, that person is a mother or a child depending on who she is standing in relation to. In relation to you, she is mother, right? But in relation to your grandmother, she is child. I know that's obvious, but it's very easy to overlook. And the same is true with arguments. A claim may be a premise in relation to one claim, yet a conclusion in relation to another claim. Let's consider this set of claims. Claim 1 is that all dogs are adorable. Claim 2 is that Fluffers is a dog. These two claims work together as premises to support this third claim that Fluffers is adorable, which is the conclusion, right? Nothing fancy here, pretty straightforward. But now let's complicate matters a bit. Let's add two more claims. Claim 4 is that all adorable things are cute. And claim 5 is that Fluffers is cute. Okay, so now I want you to think about how all 5 of these claims stand in relation to each other. What's the conclusion? What are the premises? Is there a claim in here that's both a conclusion because it receives support from certain claims and a premise because it in turn gives support to other claims? The answer is yes. The addition of claims 4 and 5 add complexity to this argument. You still have your original argument with your original conclusion, claim 3, that Fluffers is adorable. But now, that claim is being used as a premise along with claim 4 that all adorable things are cute to support the main conclusion that Fluffers is cute. Why should I believe Fluffers is cute? Well, because Fluffers is adorable and all adorable things are cute. So therefore Fluffers is cute. See, that's the main conclusion supported by two major premises, claims 3 and 4. Claim 3, however, is itself a conclusion, but we call it a sub-conclusion because it's a sub-argument, right? It's a minor argument, a minor conclusion, if you will, supported by sub-premises or minor premises. Why is it minor? Why is the support structure that exists between claims 1, 2, 3 minor? Well, because ultimately this argument is leading to claim 5. That's the main conclusion. That's the major conclusion. That's the only reason. So just like how your mother is a child in relation to your grandmother, but a mother in relation to you, claim 3 is a conclusion in relation to claims 1 and 2, but a premise in relation to claim 5. This is what I mean by a complex argument. It's an argument that has more than one support relationship. Let's review. So, in summary, complex arguments contain more than one support relationship. A claim which both gives and receives support is called a major premise or sub-conclusion. LSAT writers often use the words for, since, and because to reveal an argument's structure. I mentioned that we were going to do a lesson on just these 3 words, and here we are. The short of it is that all 3 words introduce premises. But what makes them different from the other premise indicator words, like after all, or on the grounds that? Right? Like, why are these 3 words singled out in their own bucket? It's because they tend to appear in sentences where a conclusion is also present. And that's the difference, and that's what trips people up about these 3 words. Okay, we're used to seeing premises and conclusions being in separate sentences, but sometimes they're only separated by a comma. So let's look at some examples. The first sentence reads, Poseidon must be furious, since it was his temple that was desecrated shortly before our ships were lost. The second sentence reads, since it was Poseidon's temple that was desecrated shortly before our ships were lost, he must be furious. Both of these sentences are arguments, and the word since introduces the premise of the argument. In the first sentence and in the second sentence, the premise, as introduced by since, is that it was Poseidon's temple that was desecrated shortly before our ships were lost. That's the evidence. That's the support. That's the reason why we should believe the conclusion claim, which is that Poseidon must be furious. Right? You flip it around, you ask yourself, hey, why do we think Poseidon must be furious? Right, it was because his temple was desecrated right before we lost our ships. The indicator word since immediately introduces a premise claim. The conclusion claim can, as in the first instance, show up before the indicator word and the premise, or, as in the second instance, show up after. Now, this rule generalizes to the other two words in this bucket, for and because, as well. Let's take a look. One way to construct this argument is to have the conclusion show up first before the indicator words for, since, because. In this construction, you can see the argument reads that Poseidon must be furious. Why? Well, for, since, because it was his temple that was desecrated shortly before our ships were lost. An alternative way to construct this argument is to have the sentence begin with the indicator words for, since, because it was Poseidon's temple that was desecrated shortly before our ships were lost, and now we get the conclusion at the back, he must be furious. Right, so the conclusion, you can see, is free to move either before the indicator word in the premise or after the indicator word in the premise. But the premise is attached to the indicator word. So that's why at the end of the day, for, since, because are premise indicators, but they're in their own special category because you tend to find conclusions present as well in the same sentence. Now I want to caution you again about the issue of over-inclusiveness. Right? Sometimes, often in fact, these words are used as premise indicators, but not all the time. Okay, not all the time. Consider this use of the word because. I'm hugging you because I miss you. That's not an argument. I'm not trying to convince you that I am hugging you on the evidence that I miss you. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so here the word because is not being used as a premise indicator. I mean, what is it being used as? It's being used as an explanation of the reason why I'm hugging you, right? Why am I hugging you? Well, because I miss you. That's not an argument. Okay, now let's take a look at this second sentence. It's been months since we've seen each other. Again, it's not an argument. This sense is just indicating how much time has passed. And then finally, please forgive me for the toothpaste flecks on the mirror. I mean, pretty self-explanatory, right? I mean, this is not an argument. So I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. Anytime I give you a list of indicators, you have to be mindful of the over and under inclusiveness issue. Okay, it's just an inescapable fact of the English language. The meaning of words change based on the context. So, in summary, for, since, and because all introduce premises. The special thing about these words is that you'll also find the conclusion present in the same sentence. But remember, this is a rule of thumb. It's not always going to be true. In this lesson, I want to introduce the concept of context. See, in LSAT passages, you'll often encounter arguments embedded in context. So what is context? Well, it's extra information related and important to, but not a part of the argument. Okay, so in other words, it's important information for you to understand the argument, but crucially, it is not a part of the argument. So you need to be able to separate it out, right? You need to be able to distinguish contextual information from argument information. So let's look at an example. I know you love Fluffers, but remember that all dogs are mortal and Fluffers is a dog. Therefore, Fluffers is mortal. The first phrase is context. It's not part of the argument about poor little Fluffer's mortality, right? It doesn't give support, it doesn't receive support. We have here two premises, all dogs are mortal, Fluffers is dog. Those are premises that give support to the conclusion, therefore Fluffers is mortal. That first phrase does neither, does not receive support, does not give support. It's not part of the argument, it's context. Now on the LSAT, context tends to come in two flavors. One is what I like to call table setting, right? It introduces us to the topic. The other is what I like to call other people's argument, where the author first tells you not what necessarily he or she believes, but rather just what some other people believe, and then use that as a setup to which she can respond with her own argument. So let's examine each in turn. The first kind of context is what I call table setting. It's introducing us to the topic of the argument. So let's take a look at this passage. Unlike other grazing mammals on the African savanna, zebras have black and white stripes that fail to camouflage them against background vegetation. Scientists have long wondered what accounts for the evolution of their distinctive coats. My research team have found the answer: protection from biting flies. Our data showed that horseflies hovered around zebras and horses in similar numbers, but far fewer flies were able to land on zebras. Okay, so in this passage, the first two sentences serve as context. They serve as a way to kind of introduce us to the topic. You know, here's something interesting, right? Zebras aren't like the other mammals on the African savanna. Oh yeah, in what way? Well, they have these stripes that suck as camouflage. So naturally, people wonder why. See, that's the setup. With that in mind, now the argument can present itself. The author, head of this research team, thinks that she found the answer. Her conclusion is that the stripes serve as protection from biting flies. Why should we believe that? Well, she's got some premises. She's got some evidence, right, what she calls data, that horseflies hover around zebras and horses equal numbers, but far fewer were able to land on zebras. So that's the argument, right? Separate from the context. Another way in which context typically appears on the LSAT is as other people's position. Similar to table setting, the function here is also to introduce something that the author can then respond to with his argument. Let's take a look at this passage. A group of British researchers believe that zebra stripes protect the animals from biting flies based on their recent observations of horseflies around zebras and horses. But that cannot be right. In separate experiments that involve zebras, horses, and horses adorned with black and white striped covers, it was observed that horseflies circled around each group in comparable numbers, but the frequency of horsefly landings on both the uncovered horses and those with striped covers was virtually identical. So here you see the first sentence is context. It's other people's position, right? Specifically, other people's conclusion. Those researchers that we just read from the earlier example, it's their conclusion. In this passage, however, the claim in the first sentence is simply context, because the author of this passage has his own argument to make. His conclusion is that cannot be right, meaning you guys are wrong in thinking that that's the function of the stripes. Okay, why should I believe this author? Well, the rest of the passage, the description of the experiments, blah, 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 that serves as premise. This is a pattern that you're going to see frequently on the LSAT.
the author will begin not by telling you what he or she believes, but rather by presenting other people's position, right? And then often what will happen is that the author will say, oh yeah, but they're wrong. Okay, they're wrong, and here are my reasons why. And that forms the argument. So I've introduced context as a distinct concept, but I don't want to leave you with the impression that it's somehow unimportant to the argument. Quite the opposite, actually. It is crucial to the argument. Note that in both of these passages, if we removed the context, the arguments wouldn't make any sense. In the first argument, we would know what my research team have found the answer. Like, what? What was the question? And in the second argument, but that cannot be right. Like, oh, wait, hold on a second. Who just starts speaking like that? Wait, but that cannot be right? What cannot be right? You see what I mean? Context is absolutely crucial for you to understand what the argument means. So, in summary, context is information related to, but not a part of the argument. However, context is crucial to understanding the argument. Context tends to come in two flavors: table setting and other people's position. Now that we've covered what context is, and we've seen some examples of passages that contain context for transitioning into argument, let's talk tactics. How do we identify that transition between context and argument? And one way we can do that is to use indicators. Just like how there are indicator words that indicate premises and indicate conclusions, there are words that indicate the transition between context to argument. But here I feel compelled to issue that reminder again about not becoming overly reliant on these, right? I mean, in the beginning, it's all well and fine. I do want you to use them because I want you to learn to recognize this pattern, this transition. But at some point, I hope it becomes intuitive. Okay, so these indicator words fall into two buckets. First is the three words but, however, and yet. These words indicate a turn away from contextual information to the argument. And another bucket is the phrase some people say, or its many variations. For example, a group of biologists claim, or most economists believe, or numerous studies have shown. They indicate other people's position or argument, and this kind of contextual setup is often followed by the author disagreeing with those other people. Let's look at some examples. The passage here reads, numerous studies have shown the positive psychological effects of owning mammalian pets. However, not every mammal is suitable to keep as a pet. After all, tigers are very aggressive and can cause serious injuries to people. Here, the word however indicates a transition away from context over to argument. The author is saying, right, these studies have shown this, but here's the thing I want to say about this study, or these studies. Here's the important constraint I want to put on these studies, that not every mammal is suitable to keep as a pet. And why should you believe me? Well, for the premise that tigers are aggressive and cause serious injury. You can substitute out the word however and replace it with the word but, or replace it with the word yet, and either word would serve the same function. But not every mammal is suitable to keep as a pet. Yet, not every mammal is suitable to keep as a pet. Both would indicate a turn away from context over to argument. Let's look at another example, the variant of some people say as an indicator. Here, this passage reads, some managers claim that the best way to incentivize employees to work harder is to intimidate them. Right? So this is a very clear opening from the author telling us that, look, this is not my belief. I'm just reporting to you what some people, in this instance, managers, what their claim is. And the overwhelming pattern in the LSAT is that after the author presents someone else's position, he or she attacks that position, right? There's some kind of disagreement with that position. And sure enough here, the author says, but employees who are intimidated cannot concentrate on their work. Therefore, there's probably a better way to incentivize employees to work harder. Her conclusion is the last claim, supported by the premise. Now, you might have noticed that in the second example, the word but was also present to signal the transition. The two types of indicators are working together. And in the first example, it's a bit more subtle, but it is some variant of the some people say indicator, right? Numerous studies have shown, presumably these are not the author's own studies, right? Someone else did these studies. The author is just putting it out there. There are these studies that show this thing, but here's what I really want to say. And that's a really good way to think about the distinction between context and argument. Context is all the information the author has to tell you so that you're ready to hear her argument. The transition is when she says, okay, now that I've told you all this stuff, listen up. This is what I really want to say. Okay, that's the argument. So, in summary, but, however, and yet often indicate a transition from context to argument. Some people say, and its variants are also used to introduce context. Context can be background information, it can introduce the topic of the argument, it can also be someone else's position to which the author will respond. Context should be distinguished and separated from the argument, and context is important to your understanding of the argument. In addition to being able to distinguish contextual information from the argument, you also want to be able to distinguish points offered in concession. If an author can anticipate a point that his opponent might bring up, he might just volunteer that information before making his argument. For example, let's say that we're having a discussion about what film to watch tonight. I know you want to watch the new Star Wars installment, but I want to watch an indie film about gorillas. So here's my argument. Even though the new Star Wars movie is very popular and has been widely acclaimed by critics, we should watch the documentary since it's a limited theatrical release and the theater in our neighborhood just happens to be screening it. Breaking this argument down, we get my conclusion, which is that we should watch the documentary. My first premise is that it's a limited theatrical release. My second premise is that the theater in our neighborhood just happens to be screening it. Now, granted, this is not a particularly strong argument. You can see those two premises don't provide a lot of support for the conclusion, but that's besides the point. Okay, but what about the first clause, even though the new Star Wars movie is very popular? That's not a premise of my argument. Actually, it kind of cuts against my argument. So what is it? Now, if you recall the previous lesson, you would call it context, and you would be right. This is context. We said we define context as information to help situate or better understand our argument, and this clause fulfills that role. So it is context. But here I want to introduce a bit more nuance. Not all context is the same. That the new Star Wars movie is popular works against my argument. So why do I bring the point up? As an anticipatory concession to you. I'm basically trying to steal your thunder. I'm making your argument for you so you can't make it for yourself. Right? Yes, I admit it. I know the movie is the Star Wars movie is popular. But in spite of that, I still think we should go see the documentary, and here are my reasons why. So that's a concession point. This is a pattern that will frequently recur, so I want you to start developing a sensitivity to it. So to sum up, concession points are a kind of contextual information. They are claims that the author makes that don't support his argument. If anything, they might even hurt his argument. Just like how there are indicators for premise, conclusion, and context, there are a number of words and phrases preferred by the LSAT writers to indicate concession points. So in this lesson, I want to cover some of them. And as with all the lists we've encountered so far, This list of indicators is no exception to the problem of being over and under inclusive. So again, I just want you to think of this list as an approximate guide, a rule of thumb, right? It doesn't work all the time, but it works enough of the time for it to be useful to talk about. So let's consider this set of claims. To ensure access to a well-balanced diet, it makes sense for all freshmen to register for on-campus meal plans, despite the fact that most of them find the food in the dining hall unpalatable. Let's break this down. The conclusion is that it makes sense for all freshmen to register for on-campus meal plans. Why is that? Well, the premise gives us a reason. It's to ensure access to a well-balanced diet. But what about the claim that most of the freshmen find the food in the dining hall unpalatable? That's the concession point. The author here is saying, yes, I get it. The food sucks. I'm not arguing about that. In fact, I concede it. Right? And I understand that that may be a reason to forego the meal plan. But I'm still going to argue that it makes sense for all freshmen to sign up for the meal plan. Why? Because it ensures access to a well-balanced diet. See, the concession point is something that cuts against my argument, and so I'm getting out in front of it, as it were. Now I want to look at different variations, slight variations on the passage that we just analyzed. And you notice that in each of them, the concession point, the premise, and the conclusion are exactly the same. The only thing that changes is the word or phrase that is used to indicate the concession. So starting with the first passage, the concession point is indicated by the word although, right? Although most freshmen find the food unpalatable, and then we get the argument. It still makes sense for them to register, right? All those indicating, yeah, this is a point I'm conceding. Next up, though most freshmen find the food unpalatable, right? See, though and although, nearly synonymous. Next up, we have the phrase even though, right? To ensure access to a well-balanced diet, makes sense for freshmen to register for on-campus meals. That's the argument. Here's the concession point. Yeah, even though most of them don't want to eat the food, right? Find the food unpalatable. Next up, we have even if, right? Functions in the same way as even though, functions the same way as despite, right? Or in spite of, even if most of them find the food unpalatable. And finally, notwithstanding the fact that most of them find the food unpalatable, functions in exactly the same way. All right, so to sum up, here's a list of words that are commonly used to indicate concession points, points that might cut against one's argument. Again, remember the caveat. This list is simultaneously over and under inclusive. Over inclusive in the sense that not every instance of, say, even though or while will be indicating concession. And under-inclusive in the sense that there are ways to indicate concession without having to resort to using these words. But in spite of all that, this is still a helpful list to use as a rule of thumb. Okay, so we covered a lot of ground in our argument module, and in this last lesson, I just want to kind of do a summary. A lot of new concepts were introduced, but now that you have some level of familiarity with these two concepts, I want to connect them all together to show you the relationship, to show you kind of, the whole picture, as it were. So starting at the epicenter argument, what is an argument? Well, the definition of an argument is premises and conclusions. Right? The aim of an argument is to persuade, and the structure argument is that of support. If you look here at the definition of premise and conclusion, premise is a claim that supports another claim. Conclusion is a claim which is supported by another claim. Remember, pitcher, catcher, right? Pitcher throws the support to the catcher, receives the support. Not all arguments are equal. Some arguments are stronger than others. How strong is an argument? Well, that depends on its assumptions, right? That depends on its assumptions. We talked about viewing it from that framework. We also talked about viewing it from the framework of support, and the two kind of line up,
right? Support, what does that mean? Well, it just means increases likelihood of truth. If premises support a conclusion, then when the premises are true, it's more likely that the conclusion is true. So remember, this is not a black or white thing. It's on a gradient, it's on a spectrum, right? So how well an argument is supported, again, just depends on the assumptions. So it's like you're asking the same question using different words, right? How strong is our argument? Okay, that's the same question as how strongly supported, how strongly do the premises support the conclusion, right? At least on the LSAT it is. One thing that's only very rarely tested on the test is the whether the premises themselves are true. Okay, so on the LSAT, these two questions kind of collapse into one. Okay, assumptions. What are we talking about assumptions here? Definition is it's a forgotten premise or it's a missing link between the premise and conclusion. And we've seen that assumptions, if true, could help the argument. If false, could hurt the argument. And also, like the concept of support, you got to remember not all assumptions are equal. There's a gradient, right? Some assumptions are more reasonable than others. Some are less. And it's really the less reasonable assumptions that we need to watch out for. Okay, on the test, you're going to see a bunch of highly reasonable assumptions that may not even register consciously in your mind, but anytime the idea of an assumption comes into play, it's going to be because the assumption is a little bit questionable. It's not super reasonable, right? That's what really renders an argument weak. So you'll remember this spectrum of support graph. So on the right-hand side, we have weak arguments. On the left-hand side, we have strong arguments. It's just a spectrum that kind of goes from weak to strong. Starting on the weak side, you can view it as this argument is weak. Why? Because it has a lot of assumptions and they are unreasonable assumptions. Okay, that's one way to answer the question. Another way to answer the question is that it doesn't have a lot of support. The conclusion could just as likely be true or false, right? So that's hardly an argument, right? Okay, but let's move a little bit further to the left on the spectrum, and that's where, there's still some assumptions, but maybe they're slightly more reasonable, right? So when the premises are true, you can draw a weak inference that the conclusion is true, right? Because it's not that the conclusion must be true, or that the conclusion is even likely to be true. It's just, there's some chance. It does increase odds a little bit. So that's kind of a slightly better, but not that great of an argument, right? You can get better than that, where if the premises are true, we can draw a strong inference, right? The conclusion, not guaranteed, but probably true.
Okay, guys. Hello. Hi, welcome, William. Welcome, Finley. Welcome. Boo Boo, glad you could tune in. So right now, it's a little early, but I'm going to take a break just because I looked and I saw they have a live session today from 11:30 to 1 p.m. So that's about 2 hours where they're going to be doing like a deep dive into logic reasoning questions. So I'm going to attend that session and see what it's like. So let me put that in my, I'm going to set an alarm so I don't forget on my iPod. But what I am going to do now, I'm taking a break from the LSAT study and until 11:30, I'm going to practice my presentation with you guys. Let's set the timer for 11:20 a.m. Alright, our timer is set for 11:20 a.m. for the live class, tutoring session. So as I said previously, my presentation, presenting in class on Wednesday, the professor wants it to be less than less than 10 minutes, yeah. So like obviously I will have the presentation to read from, but one thing that I have learned from prior classes, when you present on a presentation, they don't want you to read word for word. So the hardest part with me at presentation isn't like speaking verbally, kind of is, but it's not. It's just like making sure I'm not reading word for word. Honestly, I somewhat like doing presentations. I did one last semester and I did pretty good on it. So we'll see how this one goes on Wednesday, but then again, I did practice for that one, so let's get some practice in for this one. So I'm just putting my verbal notes on in like a Google document, and then I'll send it to my iPod, and then we can practice. But how was your morning today? I don't think I'm going to the gym today just because like I fell down the stairs at my house the other day, and when I fell, I was fine, but now like I was sleeping, and I'm like the back of like my arm, like it's a little sore back here. So, and then my hair is still like loosening up, so I can't even tie it back. So I guess I'll just go to the gym next week. I'll take a break this weekend and go next week. Because, yeah, alright. Influence of role models. How's your day going? Hopefully you guys are gonna have a good day. If you're in a different time zone than me, hopefully you were productive this morning. Okay, and then like I have a lot of content, so I want to get through all my content, but I don't want to speak too fast to seem like I'm rushing, but like I said, that time limit of 10 minutes will not be my best friend. So that's going to be the challenge for me, saying all my information within that time limit. Because if needed, I'm going to have to make some of my work shorter, which I really don't want to do. Method section, and we got the conclusion. Okay, so let me just change the color for the title names, and then we're gonna get started. I have to set you up, right, my tripod, because so when I read, guys, I will be like looking at my computer as well, because like obviously I am gonna be reading. The key that I learned with presentation, just based on like my class last semester when I did my presentation, because that professor really liked my presentation. She asked me to speak in her class, which I'm gonna do in October, so we still have to practice for that as well. But basically, based on her feedback, she's like, your presentations can't be too wordy. It can't have a lot of words on the slide. And then if we read from the slide, we also have to say something extra that's not on the slide. That makes sense, in a way. So I can post you. I'll probably make like a video recording, just like reading my presentation where I screen share the information. I can do that, but I'm gonna do it like after I submit my work, or probably when I'm finished with the class, just because academic and stuff. So I'll do that like at the end of the semester if you guys want. I can like screen record my presentation and submit it. Good morning, Fern. So right now what I'm about to do is I have on Wednesday for my criminal justice class, I will be presenting a presentation. I specifically chose to present qualitative presentations because quantitative presentation, me and numbers don't mix, and I'm still not 100% sure on how my professor wants us to approach that quantitative project. So obviously I'm going to try my best on the assignments to get an A, if it's up to God, for my assignments on the quantitative part, but I'm more knowledgeable about qualitative work. So I made sure I emailed him and I was like, can you please put me on the list for the qualitative presentation 2 weeks before we were presenting presentations. So I was not about to do a quantitative presentation, guys. Welcome, Fern. Welcome, Santos, Glad the King. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so guys, I guess I should put you here since I will be looking here. Yeah, this is gonna be formatted very weird because I have to look at my computer just so I can see the information, but at the same time, I want you guys to see it. All right, so that's another thing too that I highly encourage you guys or recommend that you do if you ever have to present on a presentation, guys. You need your verbal notes. So I'm fortunate enough where I have an iPod, so like anytime I present in class, I do have my iPod, and this is like where all my verbal notes are. I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. How are you doing? So let's jump into the presentation, and I'm just gonna speak like I'm going to be speaking in class with my classmates. Okay. Good morning, everyone. This is my presentation on juveniles and the criminal justice system. As an overview, we'll start with the introduction, jump into the literature review, focusing on causes of youth incarceration, go into the methods section, and we'll end with the conclusion. So as you can see, in the United States, African Americans are 6 to 7 times more likely to be and remain in prison than white individuals. African Americans are also likely to receive harsher punishments than approximately 13% of individuals in society. Therefore, the focus of my literature review is to answer what factors contribute to juveniles engaging in criminal activities and to determine how does the criminal justice system view and treat African American youths. So some causes of youth incarceration includes peer influence, negative role models, education, and a lack of resources. So Rokin and other researchers found that peer pressure and a desire to fit in, even when these juveniles know that their behavior is wrong, are reasons why they may engage in criminal activity. Specifically, peers influence each other because when they have strong friendships and are deeply connected, they have low levels of self-control around each other. So think about this scenario. 2 friends are in Walmart, and one friend tells another friend, hey, steal this candy bar, this will be really cool. Initially, the friend would say, no, that's wrong. I don't want to steal that candy bar. But if the friends are deeply connected and that friend keeps saying, steal the candy bar, or you'll be really cool, or if you don't take it, I won't be your friend anymore, or I'm not going to hang out with you, that will then cause that friend to potentially engage in criminal activities and steal that candy bar. So also, the influence of role models is also a reason why juveniles engage in criminal activity. Canary and Levine analyzed low-income children and discovered that positive role models positively impact children and are strong deterrence factors against a life of crime. Since 1981, the time spent on social media has also risen by about 62% for people between the ages of 12 and 17 years old, and 40% and social media use has also risen by 40% for children younger than 12 years old. Stevenson also found that when children from low-income communities misbehave in schools, they are often sent home or labeled as problem children, and the root of their misbehavior is not analyzed. And if these children have working parents, this is even worse, because essentially no one is there to speak to the child about why they behaved the way they did, or no one is present in the household to teach them the error in their ways. Therefore, these children move forward in society thinking that their behavior is normal and okay. Furthermore, a lack of adult supervision also causes children to spend more time on social media, as I mentioned earlier. And this increased time spent on social media and around their friends or non-pro-social individuals encourages students to watch like more violent video games or violent perceptions that are present in social media, and this can teach them that crime is normal, non-positive behavior is normal, which can then possibly result in criminal activity. Also, when children spend more time on social media, they often develop antisocial personality traits, and they can become isolated, which are characteristics of individuals who may engage in crime. Low educational attainment were also found to be strong indicators of criminal activity among children and teenagers. So, researchers found that educational success and attainment are strong positive social control factors away from criminal activities for youths. It was also found that if a high school dropout had a parent who had a high education compared to another parent who did not have a high education, the child with a parent who did not have a high education would be more likely to engage in crime. This occurred because parents who had a high education could support their children financially or potentially help their child find a job, regardless of their child's educational level. This shows the importance of having a positive role model and the significance that education has in society. Other factors or reasons why minority youths commit crimes is because they have a lack of resources to survive. They have an inability to gain a job, inability to increase their income, housing, food, and so much more. Specifically, Tony found that the American justice system operates to keep African Americans down through a form of American apartheid that is a widely praised account of the housing discrimination that exists in society. This American apartheid merges into other aspects of life and makes it difficult for low-income minorities to obtain other resources necessary for living. And when they go to offices and when they complain to administrative staff, nothing happens, or there is a long wait period, and therefore these individuals may be desperate for resources to help them to survive, so then they commit crimes to support their families. So the methods section, it should be noted that all the data that was analyzed for this research project was focused on African Americans and white individuals, and exploratory research methods was used, specifically focusing on content analysis, where multiple academic journal articles and government websites information was analyzed. The sample also consisted of juvenile data from the United States, the National Longitudinal Study of Adolescent to Adult Health, the U.S. Department of Justice, and the Prison Policy Initiative, just to name a few. So the main alternative recommendation that emerges, guys, you know what I forgot to do? We're gonna have to do it over again. I forgot to record myself to see how long it takes. So it's good that I didn't read the conclusion. I forgot to put a timer on. I had to put like a stopwatch on because the goal is to be under 10 minutes. Okay, guys, we're gonna run it back and do the whole thing over again. But if you're a new viewer right now, I'm just practicing my presentation that I'm presenting in class on Wednesday. Yes, I'm a graduate student studying public administration and criminal justice. So I'm gonna start the stopwatch. Then we're gonna start again. I can't believe I forgot to time myself. That's the whole reason why I practice, to time myself. Alrighty. Good morning, everyone. This is my presentation on juveniles and the criminal justice system. As an overview, we'll start with the introduction, go into the literature review, focusing on the causes of youth incarceration, enter the method section, and then we will end with the conclusion. In the United States, African Americans are 6 to 7 times more likely to be and remain in prison than white individuals. African Americans are also likely to receive harsher punishments than approximately 13% of individuals in society. Therefore, my literature review analyzed what factors contribute to juveniles engaging in criminal activity, and how does the criminal justice system view and treat African American youths. Some causes of youth incarceration includes peer influence, negative role models, education, and a lack of resources. I'm pointing behind me because in the real presentation, classmates will be able to see it. Rokin and other researchers found that peer pressure and a desire to fit in are reasons why juveniles may engage in crime even when they know that their behavior is bad. Specifically, Peers influence each other's behavior when they have strong friendships and are deeply connected because they have low social levels of self-control around each other. So imagine this scenario when two friends are in Walmart together. One friend will tell the other friend, steal this candy bar. That's really cool. Initially, the friend automatically replies by saying, no, that's a crime. I don't want to get in trouble. But if the friends are deeply connected to each other and their friend continuously tells them, steal this candy bar, it'll be cool, it'll be awesome, that friend may commit a crime of stealing the candy bar just because their friend is peer pressuring them to do so and because they are deeply connected to each other. Another factor that causes juveniles to engage in criminal activity is the influence of role models. So Canary and Levine analyzed low-income children and discovered that positive role models positively impact children and are strong deterrence factors against a life of crime. Stevenson found that when children from low-income communities misbehave in schools, they are often sent home or labeled as problem children, and the root of their misbehavior is not analyzed. If these children have working parents, this is even worse because essentially no one is there to speak to the children about why they misbehave or teach them about the error of their ways. Therefore, these children move forward thinking that their behavior is normal and okay. Furthermore, a lack of adult supervision also causes children to spend more time on social media. Since 1981, the time spent on social media has risen by about 62% for people between ages 12 and 17 years old and 40% for children younger than 12 years old. This means that if youths are mostly around non-pro-social or positive individuals, and if they spend more time on social media playing violent video games or watching violent TV shows, adolescents are gaining the perception that misbehavior, violence, and possibly criminal activity is normal and okay, resulting in crime later in life. Additionally, increased time spent on social media also causes youths to become isolated and develop antisocial behavioral traits, which are also characteristics of individuals who commit criminal activities. Low educational attainment were also found to be strong indicators of criminal activity among children and teenagers. It was found that educational success and attainment are strong positive social control factors away from criminal activity for youths. And if a high school dropout's parent had a high education compared to another parent who did not have a high education, the child with the parent who did have a high education would be more likely, who did not have a high education would be more likely to engage in crime. This occurred because parents with a high education could financially support their children or help their children obtain a job regardless of their child's educational background, showing the importance of having that positive role model and the importance of furthering one's education. There's also a lack of resources, which is why there's also lack of resources, which is an indicator on why juveniles may engage in criminal activity. They essentially commit crimes because they need to survive. They need to obtain housing. They can't obtain a job. They can't further their own income. Specifically, Tony found that the American justice system operates to keep African Americans down through a form of American apartheid that is a widely praised account of the housing discrimination. And this American apartheid merges into other aspects of life and makes it difficult for low-income minorities to obtain resources necessary for living, like housing, a job, food, things like that. And when these African Americans and other minority individuals go to administrative offices and complain, nothing happens, or there is a long wait period. Therefore, through desperation, they may engage in criminal activity of stealing something or going to somebody's house and committing burglary. So the methods section for this project and exploratory research methods where data was analyzed by conducting a content analysis of multiple academic journal articles and government websites was conducted. The sample consisted of juvenile data from the United States, it specifically came from the National Longitudinal Study of Adolescent to Adult Health, the U.S. Department of Justice, and the Prison Policy Initiative, just to name a few. All data analyzed focused on African Americans and white individuals for this project. So in conclusion, the main alternative recommendation that emerges from this research is that we need to support youth minorities and they need support as well. Specifically, when youths from low-income communities are released from correctional facilities or arrested for the first time for minor offenses, also known as misdemeanors, the government should provide them with resources such as money to obtain groceries, housing, and a job, at least for the first 6 months, to help them reintegrate into society. In 2001, the Regent Park Community Health Center in Canada created a pathway program for youths from low-income communities. And this program improved student outcomes because participants did not commit crimes and they had an increase in college completion rates among the participants. This pathway program also allowed these juveniles, now adults in society, to have skills necessary to obtain a career in society and so much more. And this careers allowed them to obtain money to move out of negative neighborhoods, essentially limited most of the factors that would have caused them to engage in criminal activity. Thank you guys, and that is my presentation. That's pretty good. 7 minutes and 58 seconds. So you said speak a little slower. Okay, we're gonna go through it one more time, guys. To speak a little slower and see. I do have to go in. Before we do that, let me go in and fix the grammar, because I did see some grammatical changes that I wanna fix while I'm doing this. But so far, how did you guys enjoy the presentation? Did you learn anything? Is it interesting? Or did you know this information? Role models. Players influence each other's behavior when they have strong friendship. Be connected. We're going to go through it one more time together once I fix these grammatical errors. I would love to hear a comment. What did you think about the presentation? Did you learn anything? Speak slower. Morning. So glad you could tune in. Right now I'm editing the presentation, and then I'm gonna go through it one more time, taking the feedback. Stu Lover Kitchen said to speak slower. Also, you can walk a little bit down. Just have my mouth move? What? My mouth moves when I talk. I'm confused on that. Okay. Exploratory. Okay, so we can run through it one more time. I'll take your feedback, go slow. You've received a lot of facts. Yeah, that's the only thing. Criminal justice, yeah, there's new topics, but it's really hard to write stuff about new topics. So, I mean, this information has been written about before, but it's just that's just the field of it, because they say prisons are they don't let people go in and conduct new research and a whole bunch of stuff. So anyway, let's get into it, okay? We have to start this stopwatch, guys. Purpose is to time myself, see how long I talk for. Slower, okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mia, and this is my presentation on juveniles and the criminal justice system. As an overview, we'll start with an introduction, jump into the literature review, focusing on causes of youth incarcerations, go into the method section, and then we will end with some conclusions. Oops. So as you can see, in the United States, African Americans are 6 to 7 times more likely to be and remain in prison than white individuals. African Americans are also likely to receive harsher punishments than approximately 13% of individuals in society. So therefore, the purpose of my literature review is to analyze what factors causes juveniles to engage in criminal activity and to determine how does the criminal justice system view and treat African American youths. So some causes of youth incarceration includes peer influence, negative role models, education, and a lack of resources. Rokin and other researchers found that peer pressure and a desire to fit in are reasons why juveniles engage in criminal activity even when they know their behavior is bad. Specifically, peers influence each other's behavior when they have strong friendships and are deeply connected because they have low levels of self-control around each other. Imagine this scenario. 2 friends are at Walmart, and one friend tells their other friend, steal this candy bar. That would be really cool. Initially, the friend declines and no, I don't want to commit a crime. But if these friends are very close to each other, and the friend continues to tell their friend, steal the candy bar, it'll be really cool, that friend may eventually commit that crime just because they don't want to be the odd person out and they don't want to disappoint their friend. Canary and Levine analyze low-income children and discover that positive role models positively impact children and are strong deterrence factors against a life of crime. Stevenson found that when children from low-income communities misbehave in schools, they were often sent home or labeled as problem children, and the root of their misbehavior is not analyzed. So if these children have working parents, this is even worse because there is no one to speak to the children and ask them, why did you misbehave? What happened? And no one is present to teach them the error in their ways. Therefore, these children move forward thinking that their behavior is normal and okay. Furthermore, a lack of adult supervision also causes children to spend more time on social media. Since 1981, the time spent on social media has risen by about 62% for people between the ages of 12 to 17 years old and 40% for children younger than 12 years old. This means that if youths are mostly surrounded by non-pro-social or positive individuals, and if they spend more time on social media, playing violent video games or watching violent television shows, these adolescents who are still developing cognitively are gaining the perception that misbehavior, violence, and possibly criminal activities are normal, cool, and okay, which can then result in crime later in life. Additionally, increased time spent on social media also causes youths to become isolated and develop antisocial personality traits, which are common personality traits that exist in individuals who commit criminal activities. Low educational attainment were also found to be strong indicators of criminal activities among children and teenagers. Educational success and attainment are strong positive controls factors away from criminal activities for youths. So if a high school dropout's parent had a high education compared to another parent who did not have a high education, the child with the parent who did have the high education would be more likely to engage in crime. This occurred because the parent with the high education could, one, financially support their children, and two, could help that child obtain a job regardless of their child's educational level, showing the importance of having a positive role model around you and education in society. Other reasons why minority youths commit crimes is because they have a lack of resources to survive. And this lack of resources translate into an inability to obtain a job, to increase their income, and to obtain housing. Tony found that the American justice system operates to keep African Americans down through a form of American apartheid that is a widely praised account of housing discrimination. This American apartheid merges into other aspects of life and makes it difficult for low-income minorities to obtain other resources necessary for living. And when they go to these government offices to complain to administrative staff, nothing happens, or there is a long wait period, and therefore, through desperation to ensure that their family is getting food and housing or money, these individuals, these youths, may engage in crime to help support their families. So for this research project, I use an exploratory research methods where data was analyzed by conducting a content analysis of multiple academic journal articles and government websites. The sample consisted of juveniles from the United States. Specifically, data came from the National Longitudinal Study of Adolescents to Adult Health, the U.S. Department of Justice, and the Prison Policy Initiative, just to name a few. It should be noted that all data analyzed specifically focused on African Americans and white individuals. The main alternative recommendation that emerged from the research is that the more youth minorities are supported, the better their outcome will be. So when youths from low-income communities are released from correctional facilities, or if they're arrested for the first time for minor offenses such as misdemeanors, the government should provide them with resources such as money to obtain groceries, housing, a job at least for the first 6 months to help them reintegrate back into society. In 2001, the Regent's Park Community Health Center in Canada created a pathway program for youths from low-income communities. And this program improved students' outcome because participants did not commit crimes and they had an increase in college completion rates among the participants. This pathway program allowed these juveniles, who are now adults in society, to have the skills necessary to obtain careers and to be able to obtain these careers, to then have money to move out of these negative neighborhoods, which then limits most of the factors that would have caused them to engage in criminal activity. Thank you. That is my presentation. 8 minutes and 11 seconds, a little longer. Guess I was talking a little slower. Tomorrow and Tuesday, I'll practice some more. I'll either go live when I practice or I'll call my mom to get feedback. But that's basically my presentation on juveniles and the criminal justice system. In my literature review paper, I do speak about like how the criminal justice system treats minorities, but I didn't really include that information in my presentation much, just because that the time constraint that the professor gave us. Because when I first did my presentation for a different class, I had like 20 minutes. So like I included everything. So I had to really like cut down what's in my presentation compared to my literature review paper. Great topic. Glad you liked the topic. Welcome, Roken. Welcome, Arnell. Good morning, guys. So I will be editing this. I have to still add like my reference section to it and some more information, but I'll do that tomorrow. I need to charge my computer because at 11:30 I have to attend LSAT. They have like a live study tutoring session. I think it's a tutoring session. They said it's like 2 to 3 hours long, so we'll do that. I normally go to the gym today, but I'm not going today just because I fell down the stairs the other day, and when I fell down, I was fine, but I was sleeping, and I'm like, why does it hurt when I stretch? So yeah, I'm not gonna go to the gym when my arm is a little sore and then my hair is still a little sore. So I'll rest this weekend. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, I was talking about a lot of different stuff. Which segment were you referring to? If you came in the middle of my presentation, I was speaking about like practicing a presentation that I'm gonna be discussing in class. So you can either like rewind the live video and watch it, or you can subscribe and come back maybe tomorrow. I know I'm gonna practice tomorrow. I don't know if I'm gonna go live and practice it tomorrow, so I'll be practicing up until Wednesday. And then I was just telling you about like the plans that I have to do. So 11:30 LSAT tutoring session. Right now I gotta clean up though, so let's do that. I can make my breakfast. I don't eat breakfast, but I have a waffle from Waffle House. I have to stretch out my mom's food because I do not want it to finish, because I know when that thing is finished, she is not coming back anytime soon to make it. And I have 2 months before I can go home. So I gotta make my food last, guys. So for breakfast, I'll eat that waffle that she got from Waffle House for me. So let's put some clothes. Ow, that hurt, dude. Let's put some clothes to wash. I'm not making anything. I'm just gonna put a waffle in the oven. My mom got me a waffle from Waffle House yesterday. So I'll put it in the oven. I should put that in the oven first because it'll be finished by the time I'm ready to eat it. Where is it? It's this waffle from Waffle House. Do you drink? No, I don't drink coffee. I've tasted it one time because my mom, I told her I wanted a hot chocolate, but she gave me a cappuccino. I do not like coffee, guys. It's just bitter. I don't have a baking pan, so I'm gonna put it in a frying pan. You could probably heat it up in the microwave too, but like, won't that make it soggy? I want my waffle to have a crisp to it. Hey, if it's perfect, yes. Oh, who knew if it's perfect? So, can I set a timer on my microwave? I'm gonna set a timer for like 10 minutes. What happened, dude? Start. Oh, it's mute. Turn me off. Timer. 10. Start. I see 10. Is it working? Press timer. Hey, it works. Who knew I knew how to do that? Okay. So let's put my clothes to wash. Where is it? Oh. Oh, you're leaving? Okay, thank you so much for tuning in, Roken. Have a great day. Hope, ew, I need a vacuum. What is this on the floor? Look at this. What is that? I'll vacuum at 10 when quiet hours start. Okay, guys. This will be a big load. I really only separate my clothes by color if I really like it. Put it on gentle. And jeans doesn't really stain, so that should be. Welcome, Bread. Glad you could tune in. How are you doing? I'm putting some clothes to wash right now. No, like 3 things of soap. This is a big load, so I'm just gonna put 3. Get my clothes soapy. Okay, and then we're gonna put this on super load. Let's just put it on precise fill. I don't know how big it is. Code, I will put it on light. I don't want an extra spin. Turn off auto soak, and then we'll just start. You're my favorite viewer. I really appreciate all the viewers coming in. Honestly, subscribers are my favorite viewers. Like, I appreciate the people who just tuning in, but like the subscribers, guys, you decided to stick around and go that extra mile to join, so you guys are definitely the fave viewers. So if you guys want to fall into that category, please hit that subscribe button. Oh, this is hair. I need to sweep my bathroom, guys. I blow dried my hair the other day. Welcome, Clemo. We be on room service D. What do you mean? Room service duty. Okay. Okay, I have to wait until like 10. That's when quiet hours end, and then I'll vacuum. What'd you say? I had missed the end. Oh, you missed the end of the live yesterday? Yeah, we were just having like a general discussion. I did say for the people who's on this live, I'm gonna be doing like a Q&A video next weekend. I'll film it like on Friday, Saturday. So if you guys have any questions for me that you want to get answered, go to the communities tab on my YouTube channel and add a comment and post your question as a comment, and I'll answer it in that full-length YouTube video. So that was mostly what I was saying, telling the audience at the end of my live yesterday. So now it's just to organize the deodorant. I have so many of these cans because they were like $2 on sale at CVS. But I only like this brand. These brands aren't the best in my opinion. This, guys, this is terrible. Do not use this brand. I used it one time. That was bad. I prefer baby oil over lotion. I don't like how lotion feels, but I do have face lotion. If you guys need face lotions, not sponsored, this is what I use. Can I make you a Discord server? I mean, what is a Discord server though? You can make it, but I don't know how to use it. What's the sales pitch? And if you were to summarize it in 2 sentences, how would you describe it? Now it's to clean the toilet, but I'm not going to show you that because nobody wants to see somebody cleaning the toilet. You want to show me clean? Wait, 1 minute. I finished all my paper towels. So I have toilet paper that I use to clean it as well. So let me get my tripod. You guys want to see me clean? Oh man, that fell down, dude. My massager fell down. Don't worry, I'll have to hang up my flyers. So, but like I said, my desk is an organized mess. I know where everything is, so it's clean, even though it looks like it's not clean. I can't work in a clean like I can't work in a clean environment, but like for my desk, for some reason, anytime I do schoolwork, I need my desk. Like it looks messy to you because it's like a lot of paper stacked on top of each other, but that's why I need my desk to complete schoolwork. If my desk isn't like that, then like I'll make it messy subconsciously just to clean up, just to do my work. Is anybody else like that, or do you have to clean up in like a very organized desk area? So you guys you wanna see me clean my toilet? This is my toilet. You clean it, spray Clorox. I already put these items, but I'm just putting it again for you, and I use these. Not sponsored, by the way. If you guys want to sponsor me, feel free to do so. Then you take the brush, and then just do that. I used to put Clorox, but one time I did that, I just put a whole bunch of chemicals, guys. And when I tell you I could not breathe, I could not breathe. And then I normally, if you have paper towel, you could like wipe the seat with, but I don't, so I'm just gonna take some toilet paper. And just clean it. Don't forget to clean under the seat as well. And then you want to, oops, I'm going to change it air freshener. You want to clean behind. Oops, really? And that is how I clean my toilet, guys. And I clean it every week. So yeah. Oh, I think the waffle's finished. Keep it in for another 5 minutes. Let me wash my hands and put out the new air freshener. Smells like lavender. It's fun. I'm in a Call of Duty match, BRB, but I'm still on the live. Okay, glad you're practicing those multitasking skills. Should I make a Discord server? Yeah, I mean, if you want to, yeah, definitely. I just don't know how Discord works, though. Hello, welcome back. I'm doing good. How are you doing? And if I do, I'll run you through what the server. Okay. Okay, so if you make it, you'll tell me how it works. Okay, that will definitely be helpful if you do that. Okay, guys, let me wash my hands and we will go get my breakfast. to open my eye. My eye burns, guys. Okay, let's go check out the breakfast. See if it's ready. I think it smells ready for sure. I need a cup, orange juice. Yeah, it's ready. How do you turn this off? Off. So I turn off the oven. That's a lot of juice. Oops. This is the thing. The cup is so like I don't know how to portion it with that cup. It's so big. It's hot, dude. Okay. Just gonna leave this out, let it like cool down because it was hot in the microwave, in the oven. So that, and then let us go and eat our breakfast, guys. What are you guys having for breakfast? No, it doesn't have any. Pump in it. No fern. What are you guys eating for breakfast? Ow. So this is the waffle. Oops. And we got the syrup. This is like the best syrup. They do something to their syrup too, guys. It tastes really good. I'm now going to need to open this one because the thing about syrup is like, I don't have a knife, guys. Oops. It's like it absorbs. Once you pour it on a waffle, it absorbs it. But at the same time, I like to dip. I don't have a knife. I need a knife. I like using a knife. Guys, I don't think I have a knife. This is gonna be a challenge. Eating a waffle, just a fork. That juice is sour, guys. To be honest, this is a lot of syrup. Okay. First bite is for you guys. I'm gonna dip it. It's like eating cake for breakfast. It's fun. So Discord server is like a little place where you can post updates and other important information in it. Also lets you get the chance to talk to your viewers off stream. Isn't that like the community tabs though on YouTube? Similar? It sounds similar to it. to look into it though and see. It's fun. Perhaps I'll look into it. But if you create one, Brad, definitely drop a comment. So we can go and see there. Follow you there. You can't just put it, oops, I have to clean up. I have Clorox, I'll spray it. I mean, the comment section, you can't post links there. But for me, guys, the two main social media sources that I use where like I actively post content is TikTok at Uniquely Mia and YouTube at Uniquely Mia. So those are the two places where I post content. What'd you guys eat for breakfast? If you didn't eat breakfast yet and you're already into the afternoon, what'd you eat for lunch? How did that get over there? That's weird. That waffle piece jumped into like the other side of my plate. That juice is sour, guys. Or tangy. That's how you would describe an orange, right? Welcome, welcome everybody to the live. I'm eating breakfast, a waffle. You know, it's weird. Like, I prefer waffles over pancakes, but it's the same mixture. Because you could just use, like, pancake mixture to make waffles. You just put it in a waffle maker. But to be honest, McDonald's, their pancakes are really good. Everybody want to be a moderator. Guys, I told you I have to do research into what a moderator is. And the first person to be a moderator will be somebody I know in real life. Just to see how much power they have. So, don't worry, guys. If it's something that, like, you guys can have and you won't get, like, into private information, then I will, like, when I go live, certain live videos, you will have, like, that option to be a moderator. But for now, guys, I have to do research into it, and I didn't do any research into it yet. So, I'll definitely take that into consideration, Brad. And when I do some research into what a moderator does and how much power you guys have. You see, that's the thing too. Like that, I mean, it's not a lot of power, but that's a lot of sensitive power you have because, I mean, you can remove people, you can ban people. What if you guys just remove somebody from the live because they said one thing that one person deems offensive, but like it wasn't really offensive in a way, if that makes sense? Because that's the thing. So that's why we have to like do some research and actually think about it first, because that's not a lot of power, but it is a decent amount that moderators have if you can ban people from the live, hide people. Because like on my channel, like everyone's welcome. All opinions are welcome as long as you communicate it in a positive way. But what if you don't like that opinion, my moderator, and you just ban that person, hide that person, and I don't notice it? So that's what I have to think about too. But you guys will know when we'll have the moderator live because it'll be titled as such. So don't worry, guys. Oops. How'd that fall down? Waffle, guys. Welcome, welcome to all the new people who's tuning in. Uniquely Mia here, graduate student. I try to go live daily to every other day. I post graduate student videos, food reviews, eat with me's, technology videos, travel videos. Definitely consider hitting that subscribe button. We are on our way to 2,000 subscribers, and I would greatly appreciate your support. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing. Please continue to support by watching my full-length YouTube videos, not YouTube Shorts. You can watch them, but like we need to build up our watch hours, and I need 4,000. So definitely go over and consider watching the entirety of a YouTube video that I have posted. I saw this woman on TikTok. She provided a really good recommendation because I know you guys are busy individuals in society. So maybe what you can potentially do is play my videos on a playlist, and if you don't want to hear it, you can just mute it and just have the video playing. So that way, like, I would get my watch hours and you guys would be supporting me while you're multitasking on your other activity that you, are completing. Hey, Flip, how are you doing? I gotta eat it out because it's not gonna be good if I throw it away, and I don't want to throw it away because I don't know when I'll get it again. Good morning. I'm eating a waffle. What did you eat for breakfast? First bite for the new viewers who's tuning in. And if you guys want a second bite of the people who are here previously, feel free to taste a waffle. Good morning, Flip. Good morning, everyone. So glad you guys could tune in. Did you guys eat breakfast? If you didn't eat breakfast, do you have an idea on like what you want to eat? McDonald's have burritos? I didn't know that. What was in your burrito? You said the waffle was better than your burrito. Waffle House is pretty good, to be honest, though. It's like you want to say something, but you have to chew your food before you talk. Oh, the sausage burrito wasn't good? Hey, at least you know not to get it next time. Now, hopefully they didn't charge you a crazy amount for it. Your Discord, oh, you have it somewhat set up now? Okay, yeah, when it's set up, just like come back to the video, drop a comment. All right, thank you so much for tuning in, Flip. Hopefully you have a great day at work. And hopefully I see you in my next YouTube live video or in the comment section of one of my full-length YouTube videos. Have a great day, Flip. You're building it on your PC? Wait, you're actually building... Okay, cool. You're building it from scratch. Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Takes a lot of skill about the internal workings of a computer to do that, which I'm not knowledgeable on, so very cool. Last bite, guys. My paper got all scrunched up. It is all finished. Yeah, my template 4,000. Okay, all right, cool. So guys, let me clean up my desk. Syrup got on it, so I'm gonna take some Clorox spray and like wipe it down. My mom sent me bread. I have to see when it expires. I don't even know when it expires. This is the thing. I want to eat her food, but she gave me expirable items. So I have to eat this throughout the week. I have chicken, so I guess I can eat it with that because it expires next week. Okay, guys, it is 9:52 a.m. I have about an hour and 30 minutes before my the tutoring session starts, guys. What'd you say? Do you want the hard R blacklisted on words for the Discord? What word is that are you referring to? Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the live. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I will tune in later on, when I'm eating, most likely, like my lunch or dinner, just because like I have food to show you to eat. So definitely stay tuned for that, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. My plans when I'm off live, attend that like LSAT tutoring session, shower, and I have to like, when my clothes are finished drying, I'll just like fold that up and put it in my drawer. So that's everything. So I'll see you later on this evening / afternoon. Hopefully you enjoyed this live, guys. If you are a subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing. Really appreciate your support. Please, guys, go and watch some of my full-length YouTube videos to the beginning to the end to get my public watch hours up. I also said this weekend I want to do a Q&A session. So let me show you really quickly again how to find the communities tab. Okay, so this you go. Wait, what happened? So you go to YouTube, click my name, Uniquely Mia, profile page, communities, first thread, a question. If you have a question about me, feel free to drop it and I will answer that question in my full-length YouTube videos that I'm planning to make, guys. So I'll see you soon. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you're not a subscriber, please consider hitting that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye, guys. Have a